A is for atom. It's also for associate producer, art direction, animators, so take that, Arnold Gillespie. You too, a John Sutherland production. Oop, Grandpa ruined the remote again.
The atomic age was born. There is no denying that since that
Here
moment,
comes the
shadow
rain.
of the atom bomb has been across all our lives. All men of goodwill earnestly hope that a realistic control of atomic weapons can and will be achieved.
Here at the
Meanwhile,
United Nations.
good sense requires that all of us prepare for any eventuality.
Get your civil
But
defense
wisdom
tokens
demands,
now.
too, that we take time to understand this force. Because here, in fact, is the answer to a dream as old as man himself.
What, a new
A
Queen
giant
album
of
cover?
limitless power at man's command. And where was it science found that giant? In the atom.
On a
A
pin
particle
cushion.
so infinitely small that it takes over 100 billion atoms to make up the head of a pin. Just as other millions and
What's going on,
quadrillions of
Steve?
atoms
Not
are the
much,
tiny
John.
building
How you
blocks,
doing, Rob?
which make
Pretty
up
good,
everything
fellas.
in the world. Ships and shoes
And candy
ceiling
bars.
lamps,
And
cabbages
condoms.
and kings. Although no one has ever seen an atom, scientists have learned a great
Scientists
deal
here
about how they
at the
behave.
Science
And there are widely
Institute,
accepted theories
our
as to
lead
what they're like.
scientist, Mr. Magoo,
Let's start by meeting a leading authority on the subject, Dr. Atom. Now, observing the professor
Dr.
himself,
Atom has a
we
back
can see
problem.
that his structure resembles, in many
But he can
ways,
still step
something
up on his
almost
translucent
as vast as
steps.
The atom is small. The solar system. And there are certain similarities. Here is the center with electrons in surrounding orbits.
so this
But
is all
whereas
about the
planet
Illuminati.
movement of electrons is slightly different. There are other differences too. Hey, hold it!
Take it easy.
Thank you.
Atoms are in
Now,
vibrators
the
too.
solar system together is electrical. The electrons, which are negative, are attracted by the protons,
And
which
somewhere
are positive,
Robert
and
Conrad
vice
is in the
versa.
70s
But
challenging
here
you
in
to
the
knock
nucleus
that battery
are
off
other
his
particles
shoulder.
with no electrical charge called neutrons. Very important characters too, as we shall see. And equally important when it comes to atomic energy is what scientists call
Wait,
the atom's
wait,
binding
is-
force.
Did I get this
It's a
off
kind
of
of
Pornhub?
cosmic glue holding the nucleus together. This, then, is a single atom.
Hello.
But certainly not all atoms are alike. There are in nature more than 90 basic elements, which is science term for families of atoms. To scientists, the atoms of the individual atom families, or elements, are identified by
Sorry,
number.
I can't snap my
That is,
fingers.
the number of protons or positive charges
hydrogen
in their
family.
nucleus. And they vary all
Get
the
off
way
my
from
lawn, you damn
hydrogen,
kids.
which has just one proton, to oxygen
Hello.
with 8 protons, to gold, he's rich with 79.
Yes.
Finally, on to the heaviest of all natural elements.
He ain't heavy, he's my
With
uranium.
92 protons. Now, within each element, or family of atoms, there can be different members, each
All of
one
their
having the
inbred.
same number of protons, but differing in the number of neutrons. The total
So
of
they're
an
doing the
atom's
neutron
protons
dance?
and neutrons is its atomic weight. Thus, in natural uranium, we have U-234, U-235, and U-238.
And then a
These
crappy
different members
2000s
of the
movie,
same element or atom
U571.
family, science calls isotopes. Some elements, tin for instance, have a great many isotopes.
The Tintins, they
Others,
were great in
like
concert.
aluminum, are lone wolves with just one.
I'm a little teapot.
Now, most atoms of most elements are content with their lot in life. We speak
Especially
of them
that
as
whiskey
being
barrel
stable.
back there.
But others are busy day and night, being what science calls radioactive.
So radium
Like
is what, the
radium,
strip
throwing
club
off
of the
powerful
elements?
rays along with some of its neutrons and protons, until it actually alters its own nuclear structure and changes to another family.
Going over and invading
And
radon.
then to another,
Then they're taking
until
over
it does
lead.
become stable
Oh,
at
I'm
last.
tired.
This spontaneous changing of elements is called
Spontaneous
natural
human
transmutation.
combustion.
Its discovery gave men of science an idea. If an atom could change itself, why couldn't man change an atom? Using as bullets the very particles which radium threw off, a noted British
Always got to use
scientist
the bullets,
bombarded
don't
nitrogen
you? Second Amendment.
and converted it to oxygen.
It's a joke.
In terms of individual atoms, this is what happened. The radium nucleus threw off an alpha particle consisting of 2 protons and 2 neutrons. One of the protons was absorbed into the nitrogen nucleus,
maybe I did get this off of
turning it to
Pornhub.
oxygen. This was artificial transmutation, man changing the elements. From that first experiment, others by the thousands followed.
All turned
as
into 90s
scientists
clip art.
devised ever more powerful particle accelerators, commonly called atom smashers, to transmute more and more kinds of atoms. All scientifically important, but hardly world-shaking. Then, in 1939, some scientists were experimenting with transmutation
And where
of
were
uranium.
those scientists at in
What would
1939?
happen, they
Or
wondered,
aren't we allowed to
if
say
they fired
Germany?
a neutron at a uranium nucleus, already the heaviest in nature? Why not try? So they tried. And the result? Nuclear fission. Instead
Nuclear
of a minor
fission.
change, the atom split in 2. Truly a discovery to change the world. For what had
Clearly,
happened
because
when the
that
uranium
globe
atom
does
split
not look
was a
flat
kind
to
of
me.
double miracle of science. Half of the miracle concerned that binding force we spoke of before, that kind of cosmic glue which holds the atom's nucleus together.
Is that where super
We
glue
still
came
don't
from?
know all about that binding force yet, but we do know it is equivalent to mass. Therefore, we may speak of it as having a kind of weight of its own.
And then
Now,
Richard
the
Simmons
2
came in
atoms
and
into
helped them
which
lose
a
weight.
uranium atom splits also have binding force. But for some reason, it takes less of that glue to hold them together, and in the process of fission, a tiny fraction is left over. What happens to it? It explodes as energy, proving Einstein's
Einstein
theory
or is
that
that
mass
Robert
and
Smith?
energy are really the same. But we spoke of a double miracle. To understand the second one, let's
So
slow
double
down
miracle
that
like a
fission
double negative?
a million or so times. A single particle starts the reaction, splitting the uranium atom. Here now is the release of energy as heat and blast. Here are powerful rays being given off, similar to X-rays.
And nerds
But
are
here-
invented.
Here are free neutrons driven out with tremendous speed. And provided there is sufficient U-235
I'm gonna beat you,
present,
Carl. No,
what
you're not,
science
Phil.
calls a critical mass, those neutrons bombard other uranium atoms, causing them to split and split still others. The result? A chain reaction.
So what you're
Over
telling
a
us is
million,
atoms are
billion,
nothing but a
billion
bunch of
atoms
sluts?
exploding within 2 seconds. And the force?
Turns into
It
Yankee
would take
Stadium.
Yankee Stadium full of dynamite to equal the energy released in the complete fission of an amount of U-235 the size of a baseball. With this discovery, at the time the free world faced a
Again,
war for
the
survival,
world is flat.
it was little wonder the first thought was a weapon. But how to obtain enough material for even a single bomb?
I don't know, ask the
Only a
Germans.
small fraction of natural uranium is the U-235 isotope, which will fission in a chain reaction.
And we'll turn it into
and
a
to
ghost.
separate enough U-235 quickly enough seemed all but impossible. But the impossible became reality.
Until
as
we made some
industry, labor,
plans.
science, and the military combined their efforts to build Oak Ridge, where enough U-235 was separated
Was the
to build
first
the
time we ever
atomic
made a
bomb.
building that looked like a U.
At Hanford, Washington, another impossible project proved possible when a huge plant was built for the mass production of the artificial element plutonium. This process involves what may be called the furnace of atomic energy, the reactor pile.
Yeah, we had one
Here
of those
is a
in art
structure
class in
or
school.
pile
It's called a
of graphite
kiln.
blocks. In the reactor are placed rods of natural uranium containing both U-235 and U-238. As U-235 begins to fission, the graphite slows down the free neutrons.
So
and
atoms
some
have
of
to
them
do the
hit other
jig to be able
U-235
to
atoms,
separate? Is that what
keeping
we're
the
seeing
chain
here?
reaction going. But others of those slowed down neutrons hit U-238 atoms. And here's what happens. Remember, we said that U-238 wouldn't support a chain reaction. However, it will capture neutrons from U-235 fission and start a process which converts the U-238 first to neptunium, then to plutonium.
But plutonium got downgraded to a planetary body.
The reactor itself is a source of atomic fuel. Besides producing plutonium,
they
the
also
nuclear
made
reactor
great squares.
makes possible two very important peacetime uses of atomic energy. Remember that the chain reaction process in the reactor creates tremendous heat, which scientists have learned how to control.
So this would be like
Thus,
a
reactor
reaction
may be
video?
substituted in many industrial applications where heat is now provided by coal or petroleum. But such uses in the foreseeable future
Will
are limited.
allow you to...
For one thing, a reactor pile must be shielded to protect the workers around it from dangerous radiation. And this shielding adds tremendous weight. However, an atomic energy power plant has already proved feasible.
That way you can warm up your macaroni and cheese quicker.
Entire cities is far from impossible. While nuclear power in locomotives, submarines, ships, and even very large airplanes may all but revolutionize future transportation.
But not electric
on
cars,
land,
damn it.
sea, and air. But perhaps the most valuable byproduct of the nation's reactor piles is radioactive isotopes. Research has revealed that many elements not naturally radioactive became so when placed in a nuclear reactor.
But they will be
And these
Homer's
isotopes,
softball team.
working as tracers with such measuring devices as a Geiger counter, became invisible
a
detectives.
Geiger counter looks like it
aiding
has
the
a nice
cause of
jacket on.
science in many different fields.
Private Eye Solutions.
In agriculture, isotopes are now used to test such things as the effect of fertilizers on plant growth and the proper timing for
To
their
turn
use,
your cornstalk
helping
into a
to assure
thermometer.
bigger and better yields from tomorrow's farms. In industry, isotopes have found literally hundreds of new uses, such as the automatic thickness control of sheet aluminum, saving hundreds
he,
of
like,
man-hours of
burning
labor
that atom
and
like somebody
assuring
burns an
accuracy
ant?
never before possible. In the fields of medicine and biochemistry, isotopes are performing near miracles of diagnosis and discovery.
I'll build
With
to you on your
radioactive
next...
sodium, doctors are solving more of the seeming mysteries of heart disease and circulatory disturbances. Radioactive phosphorus
We'll
has been
figure out
used
why you
to
have an
locate
egg in your
tumors in the
brain.
brain and greatly simplify operations for their removal. Iodine-131
We'll
finds
also
one
figure
of
out why
many
you have a
uses
jelly bean
in
stuck in your
revealing
throat.
conditions of the thyroid, and there are many more. New ways of using isotopes
Here at
are
the
being
Science
discovered
Institute.
constantly through the tireless work of modern pioneers in such fields as chemistry, metallurgy, medicine, and biology. Truly, the superpower which man has released from within the atom's heart is not one, but many giants. One is the warrior,
And they
the
will take
destroyer.
over the world.
Another is the engineer, seeking to provide vast quantities of energy to run the world's machines.
And be a ventriloquist.
Another is the farmer,
Trying to
helping
figure out why
better
there's a
feed
skeleton in
tomorrow's
his...
world. Still another is the healer, helping to diagnose and
I'm
cure
just going
the
to
sick.
stand here.
And the last is the research worker.
Don't
working
do me
on
last.
in the
I'm
fields
folding
of
my
pure
arms.
science to reveal more of the mysteries of the universe. But all are within man's power.
If the
subject
price
to his
is
command.
right.
On man's wisdom, on his firmness in the use of that power, depends now the future of his children and his children's children in the new world
We
of
call
the atomic
a
age.
weather-free globe. That's right, folks. The planet is not flat.